was the first boat 18 months ago that I ever stood on in this mooring, because my partner Nicola, she lived on that boat next door. So when I first met her, she brought me to the mooring, and I stepped on this boat to get to that boat next door.
Trying to afford a flat in London is horrendous.
I've been living a year on this boat. It's a really fantastic traditional boat with an engine inside, which is inside the boat itself, so it's really easy for access and well protected.
Well, I had a boat many years ago when I was a small boy, and I remembered from that time how nice it was on the canals and how far they go. So after working hard for many years, decided to go back onto the canals.
If you're living on the boat, you've really got to have some DIY understanding. Otherwise, you're gonna struggle. You know, you've got to be able to be a little bit self-sufficient, and that's like the attraction of it. Is being a bit off the grid. Do you know what I mean? Being a bit independent. If you're not that kind of person, then you're not gonna last very long.
Basically, the storage is sort of like an issue. Well, space is always an issue. So what you have to do, you have to utilise everything to the maximum. So yes, underneath there I've got water tanks that are in desperate need of filling. That's why I've got lots of bottles of water there. So every time I'm out and I pass the tap, I fill the bottle up because, sorry, at the moment, yeah, I haven't got any water in the tanks.
My first boat, I drank the water straight out of the tap. I didn't even think about it, and I got really sick. And I noticed when I had like a cup of tea, there'd be a film on the top of it, and I thought, well, that's weird because it's just coming out of the hose, but actually what you don't think about is that it's sitting in your water tank. And I haven't seen the inside of my water tank, but you know, when a boat's from the 70s and it's had the same water tank the whole time, I don't think I want to see in there. It gets a bit of a gunky film, I think. So I always filter it.
And while we're here, we can't get any water because the water's at the St Pancras lock, which has been repaired. Mm-hmm. So we've been told that we're going to have to be here another week, meaning that the water tank's getting low. So I've got to gamble that if I leave this spot, I can get me water and come back and there'll still be room for me. So I'm just hoping my water lasts the week out.
Your shampoo, your washing machine, everything, you can release in the canal, but it has to be biodegradable products.
No, I've always been very, very aware of the environment. I'm a vegetarian as well, so I don't even take that part of it. I'm very aware of the environment.
You know, I have to think about my heating and think about my water, and it makes you quite aware of how much you consume, especially water actually. And I mean, I could just put a whole lot of heaters in, I suppose, but I quite like having to light the fire. And I like that when I get home from work, I have to do something that makes me feel present. You know, I actually have to light a fire if I want to be warm.
You got to deal with it, just like the refuse from the bins and all that kind of thing. You got to deal with the human refuse as well.
That's the key. That opens all the toilets and water supply in the entire canal network, and a very important key.
And the first time you do it, it's so traumatic. But it's also kind of, it's fun in a weird way, because, you know, someone will take their boat out and you all take your cassettes.
So we send an email, or we said, we're gonna bring our cassette, please come along, I'm driving today, and people come with their cassette and they sit on the boat. So it's a nice way to make fun and have a good time together out of a chore.
And then there's rules from the CRT, the Canal River Trust. So things like this boat, it has to be a certain length, like it can't be too long for the mooring because other boats have to go past. And then day-to-day rules, like you have to keep the towpath clear. We each have a little sort of garden patch, which doesn't legally belong to us, but the kind of rule is that you keep your garden tidy, because while it's, you know, a home for a lot of people here, it's also a public space in a weird way, because people walk through a lot. So keeping the willow tree where it's kind of a social space up there.
Allotment, you get them in England because it's always been sort of like a thing about growing things. And during the wars, where food became scarcer, they were actively encouraging people to grow food. And it's sort of, there's a law in this country that said you must provide people with allotments, because not everybody has a garden nowadays. So on mine, it's basically, for an allotment, cost me £50 a year, which is £1 a week for my own vegetables. It's quite a no-brainer. And it means I'm outside a lot of the time, in all lovely conditions, and some bad ones as well, but it's good, I enjoy it.
Favourite part is the community. The thing that I like about living here in particular, not just on a boat is having this community around and feeling like you know, you're in this secret little world in the middle of London, like we're 10 minutes walk from Baker Street Station.
Here it's much more on the love and friendship base, and of course we help each other, and there's anything we just, you know, in a suspicious way, whatever, we would help each other and be like. But the initial, it's really relaxed and positive, and so the more interactions you have with your neighbor, the better it is, always, I think.
I got nicked last night, so I'm going to need to use that one for now. I've got no other wheels.
Of course, of course.
I suppose actually being outside and sailing it and waking up in the mornings when you're somewhere where lovely, it's absolutely gorgeous. You look at the sunrises, you look at the sunsets. It's difficult in the centre of London, but there are still some nice parts, and it's good because we've got to move every 14 days anyway, unless you have a permanent mooring sort of thing.
And you know, like the kitchen and stuff, even though it's small and it's a gas stove and it doesn't really, you know, it burns things when they're not even cooked in the middle, you can actually make a dinner for 4 people. The only thing is there's not really anywhere to sit around here to all eat it. But I can make dinner parties and birthday cakes, and baking makes me feel at home. I'm making cinnamon buns. I like kind of modifying recipes a little bit, so I'm making gluten-free cinnamon buns. The annoying thing with not having a microwave is I have to melt butter in the oven, and like not really having that much space either, and so it gets quite crowded whenever I try and make anything.
Lying in bed sometimes, especially when you have the fire going and you get condensation and you're lying there, and my bedclothes are getting wet, I'm getting wet, it's quite funny. But yeah, that's quite hard, but it's not that hard. There are people worse off than me. See people sleeping in shop doorways, you know. I've got a boat, I'm one of the lucky ones.
I like living on a boat because of the freedom. You're seeing lots of different places, meeting new people. It's just a sense of freedom, really.
So I come really from a countryside village, so living in London, I like it, but you like a little bit of green things around you. And so I wanted to be closer to that.
You can have the benefit of living in the city, but also being a bit more close to nature, because you've got the ducks, you know, you got the animals, you got the birds, you got a few plants around, and it's, like I say, it's a bit more wildlifey. It's like a little oasis.
I just feel like you'd never regret living on a boat. You know, you'd regret not doing it, but you wouldn't regret doing it.
Yeah, I've always enjoyed living on the boat. I've been on the water over 15 years. The discussion kind of came out of, I like doing the books. My partner Paddy said I like the book selling, but I don't like leaving the canal. I just want to be on the boat all the time. And I'd had a plan for maybe selling books on the boat when I retired. And Paddy said, well, let's just do it now.
So I'm the third generation of my family to work on the Puppet Theatre barge, and the theatre was started by my grandparents. It opened in 1982 in Camden, so we're coming almost towards, we'll be in our 40th year soon. And I've always worked here since I was a child, operating the puppets. So we specialise in marionettes, which is string puppets, which is quite a rare form of puppetry these days. It's not so popular. And we present shows throughout the year on a boat.